Hey guys, happy Thursday. Today is November 5th, 2020. We are still in our Unit 3 place value. In your journals, pause the video here and write down the green title, Rounding Decimals Through the Thousandths Place. Pause the video here and write that down. Today, you guys will be rounding values through the thousandths place. You don't have to write that part down. And here we go. With the warm-up, we are going to talk about rounding of whole numbers. You don't have to write this down as well. It is an anchor chart from 4th grade. Rounding, mark your place. So here we would be rounding to the nearest tens. You look next door, the 7 is behind, 5 or greater, add 1 more. The number in the front stays the same, 2. And the number 3 would round up to 4. Numbers behind the 0 become zeros. And remember, 4 or less, you let it rest. 5 or more, we raise the score 1 more. For your warm-up in your journal, I want you to write down these two values, 127,309 and 4,040,853. Beside each number, I want you to round 127,309 to the nearest 10, nearest 100, and nearest 1,000. Then I want you to round 4,040,853 to the nearest 10, nearest 100, and nearest 1,000. So pause the video here. This is our warm-up. Again, this is a review of what you guys learned in 4th grade. So pause the video here and then we'll check. Okay, so you should have, for 127,309, you should have nearest 10, 127,310. For nearest 100, you should have 127,300. And to the nearest 1,000, you should have 127,000. Check and make sure you did those correct. Then for the 4,040,853 to the nearest 10, you should have 4,040,850. For your nearest 100, you should have 4,040,900. And for your nearest 1,000, you should have 4,041,000. Check and make sure you have those correct. Again, that is a review. Today, we will be moving into rounding all the way through the nearest thousandths. So rounding decimals, it is the same rules. You find your place value, you underline it, you look next door. If it's 5 or greater, you just add 1 more. All the digits in the front will stay the same, and all the digits behind will become zeros with their name. Example of rounding to the nearest tenths. You have 38 and 25 hundredths. The 5 tells the 2 in the tenths place that it becomes a 3 for rounded version to the nearest tenth of 38 and 3/10. If you round to the nearest whole, you are looking at the 1 in the nines place, and the digit behind it is your tenths place, which is a 7. 19 would round to 20. If you're rounding to the nearest whole number. So how do we round decimals? We're going to first start with your nearest tenth. And again, this is just a review of everything. You don't have to write, just listen and pay attention. If you would like to write and pause as I go, you are more than welcome to, but again, you don't have to. Rounding to the nearest tenth is the first one we're going to start with. First, you underline the place you are rounding to, which is the 3. Then you underline the place you were looking at was your number 1. Number 2, you look at the digit to the place to the right to determine if you're rounding up or down. So you have an 8. The 8 is going to tell us that we go up. So we are going to go up, so we round up. Therefore, your 147 and 4 or 389 rounds to 4/10 or 400 thousandths, but you're rounding to the nearest tenth. Now we're going to practice a few. This first one I'm going to model for you. So it says round the number to the nearest tenths. So I'm looking here into my nearest tenths, and the digit behind tells me what to do. Remember, 4 or less, it goes down. 5 or more, it rounds up. So it's a 4, so it stays the same. Everything to the left stays the same. My 6 is going to stay the same. Everything behind becomes a 0. Here's one for you. Now I want you to round this one. It reads 451 thousandths rounded to the nearest 10. So pause the video here, write it down, and see if you can round it to the nearest 10. Again, you underline your place value. You circle the digit behind. The 5 tells the 4. It goes up. So it will read 500 thousandths or 5/10. Next is rounding to the nearest hundredths. Number 1, you underline the place value you're rounding to. So here's the same number, for example, 147 and 389, but we're going to round it to the nearest hundredths. So this time the 8 in the hundredths place is underlined. The 9 in the thousandths place is going to tell it what to do. So look at the digit behind the right to determine if you're rounding up or down. The 9 is rounding up. So your 8 is going to round up. It's going to increase by 1, becoming 147 and 390 thousandths. And here's one for practice. Again, you have to find what it's telling you to round to. Here we're rounding to the nearest hundredth. So we are finding our digit in the hundredths. The digit in the thousandths is telling it what to do. So you have 4 or less, we let it rest. 5 or more, we go up 1 more. 7 is here, so it means we go up. And it is going to be 370 thousandths. And here's one for you. Pause the video here and see if you can round 251 thousandths to the nearest hundredths. You should have underlined your 5. Circle your 1 in the thousandths place, and the 1 says, oh, we stay the same. So we're going to write our 250 thousandths, and there's your answer. And here is our last example. Now we have 147 and 389 38, and let's see, it's 100,000, excuse me. So it reads 38,925 hundred thousandths. And we are going to round it to the nearest thousandths. And this is the biggest you will get to. And most of the time we won't even work with this. But again, the 9 is your digit that we're going to round to. So you're having to look in the 10 thousandths place. It is a 2. The 2 tells you it's going to stay the same. So you're going to turn it into everything behind it becoming zeros. So it just reads 147 and 389 thousandths. And we're going to practice a couple of these on our own. Now we're rounding to the nearest thousandth. So again, you're underlining the digit that is in the thousandths place, and you're circling the 10 thousandths place. Therefore, even if you can't say it correctly, and I might butcher it as well, the 3, so it should read 5 and 0, 6, because those stay the same. The 3, it's going to stay the same also, and everything behind it becomes zeros. This would actually read 5 and 63 thousandths. And go ahead and pause the video here and see if you can practice this one. Again, you're going to underline the thousandths place, and the digit behind tells it what to do. It is a 9 in the 10 thousandths place. Therefore, the 1 is going to go +1, becoming a 2, a 4, a 2, 0, 0, and don't forget your decimal place. All right, let's head to our Orgo page 24. It says on this number line, the distance between each whole number is 1 whole. where would you show the decimal fraction of the number line? So it says 1 and 391 thousandths. So I would say that it would be about right here. So go ahead and mark that on your page 24, the first one. It says, what is the nearest whole number and how did you know? Well, it is closer to 1 than it is to 2. And so therefore it would be 1 whole if you're looking at the number line. But if we are rounding to the nearest whole number, you're looking at the 3. The 3 tells the 1 it stays the same, therefore it rounds to 1 whole instead of going up to 2. So again, here it is marked on the number line. It's going to be right about here. Remember, it's closer to 1, therefore it's going to round to 1. What is the nearest tenth and how did you know? So it is 1 and 391 thousandths. And if you're rounding it to the nearest 10, the 9 tells you, oh, well, that is almost 4. So if I'm looking at 139, it is going to be closer. Oh, we're going to go up this way and use it here. And it would be right here. So it's going to round to 1. And if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, 4 tenths, or if I add my zeros back behind it. On the number line, it shows the thousandths. What would be between 1 and 39 hundredths and 1 and 40? So what would be in between there? If I were to write my thousandths, it would be 1 and 395 thousandths. Just make sure that you have those written in your notes. And here is the practice for we do. So I want you to pause the video here, and it says draw an arrow to show approximately where these numbers would go on the number line, and then write the nearest whole. So you're going to round them to the nearest whole number on the lines below. So pause the video here and go ahead and do that for me. Okay, so you should have that A, 257 thousandths rounds to 0. It is closer to 0 on the number line. If you check where it is attached, it is a little bit past 2 tenths. Then you have 401 thousandths rounds to 0 also. It is still closer to your 0 than it would be to your 1. Your 730 thousandths would be right about here. It rounds to 1 because it is closer to 1 than it is to 0. Then you have 1 and 10 thousandths, which is going to be super close to your 1. It also rounds to 1. And then your 1 and 620 rounds up to 2 because it's going to be super close to 2 compared to 1 or 0. Okay, so today you're going to practice the same thing. You guys are going to do your number 2, your number 3, your number 4, and the step ahead. The first part, number 2, says draw an arrow on the number line to tell approximately where these would be, and then you're going to round them to the nearest hundredths. Number 3, it says draw an arrow to the approximate location, but round them to the nearest tenth. Number 4, it says read the number in the expander. The first one reads 3 and 872 thousandths. You're going to round each number to the nearest whole number, the nearest tenth, and the nearest hundredth. And you're going to do the same thing for B. 5 and 219 thousandths, round it to the nearest whole, tenth, and hundredth. Now, the next part, it says, explain how you would round this number 6 and 492 thousandths to the nearest tenth. So you can explain to me the steps on that, and that is going to be it for today. So make sure that you have this done, and I will be checking in with you guys about the you do this part. We are going to check this whole group to make sure that everybody there at home and here at school have got this before we move on to any of the independent work for today. And I'll see you soon.